Hello and thanks for joining us. We're starting with what's arguably the biggest French TV show of the moment. Lupin is a modern take on the famous fictional character Arsène Lupin, a gentleman thief created in the early 19th century. The latest remake is an action-packed heist, a sort of Robin Hood meets James Bond meets Ocean's 11. Pierre Delroux reports.
You underestimated me. You didn't look at me. You saw me, but you didn't really look.
It's a timeless story about family and revenge, set in contemporary Paris. Lupin is Netflix's latest hit and the first French production to debut in the US Top 10 chart.
We grounded it in something very contemporary. We wanted to show Paris as it is, the monuments, but also the suburbs. It was important to show Paris in its entirety. We didn't want it to look like a postcard.
Omar Sy plays a thief who's inspired by fictional character Arsène Lupin, a charismatic con man and master of disguise.
I think Lupin's the ideal character for an actor. You can do anything with him. Be dramatic, funny, light-hearted. He's charming, he's clever, there's action.
Author Maurice Leblanc first invented the character of Arsène Lupin in 1905, a gentleman thief who bears more than a few similarities with a certain British detective, as the author's granddaughter explains.
It was newspaper owner Pierre Lafitte who asked my grandfather to create a character that would echo Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, who was a hit in England. Obviously, the show is a modern version of the character. He's no longer in his context. There are a lot of allusions. We see a lot of posters, a lot of books, because it's inspired a little bit by the first adventures of Arsène Lupin.
The enthusiasm for the series has also revived interest in the original Lupin books. Publisher Hachette says in 2 weeks, they sold what they usually print in 1 year.
It's fascinating for us publishers to see all these readers who are passionate about a character who is almost 100 years old.
Expect the unexpected in this modern twist on a French classic. Netflix France's latest production brings together action, sleek scenes, and unrealistic getaways. Though the writing may be predictable, it's already a hit on the small screen. The streaming platform estimates that 70 million people around the world will have watched Lupin in the first month of its release.
You know the handcuff trick?
The handcuff what?
Well, now you do.
From a series based on a legendary French character to a historic French chateau that sheltered thousands of artistic masterpieces during the Second World War. The preparations are underway for an exhibition that will honour those who courageously saved this precious heritage from the Nazis. Let's head to the Valençay chateau in central France to find out more about the operation to save the art.
This enormous chateau in the center of France belonged to the famous 18th century French diplomat, the Prince of Talleyrand. What's less known about the building is the essential role it played during World War II. From September 1939, it received numerous artworks once stored at the Louvre and other Parisian museums. The Palace of Valençay was one of over 40 facilities storing the national stockpile of art.
It was selected because it was quite isolated. There was enough space to store large-scale pieces, like the winged victory of Samothrace. And inside there's everything. There's even a chest, so you could hide the jewels of the crown of Napoleon I, the crown of Louis XV.
The chateau has scheduled an exhibition for March to showcase what went on during World War II. They're selecting powerful images, like this one of trucks leaving behind over 1,000 pallets, which include paintings, sculptures, and other works of art. This photograph was selected for the poster. It's of Venus de Milo bound in rope. It was among one of the largest artworks stored at the chateau.
Here you see really beautiful pictures where you see the winged victory of Samothrace being taken down to come to Valençay. So these are really incredible moments that no one has seen.
The palace's owner at the time, the Duke of Valençay, shared the 110 rooms of the chateau with a conservator and guards sent from the Louvre. Artworks were stored everywhere, including the living areas and underground. At the time, the town's residents ignored the presence of the artworks, but according to a local historian, in August 1944, the chateau was close to being burned down by the Nazis.
Here you see the impacts of bullets fired by Germans on the place where the chateau's guard at the time was working. They ransacked everything, broke doors, burned down 42 buildings and killed 8 people.
The palace of Valençay was spared by the Nazis, and the artworks which sheltered here found their rightful place in museums once the war was over.
Well, after almost a year of the pandemic, it's little wonder our shared experience of lockdown is creeping into artwork. It's the theme of this year's Photo Brussels Festival, which is in its 5th year. Unlike here in France, some art exhibitions are open in Belgium with strict health measures in place. Our reporters have been to the large hangar in Brussels, where a giant photo album on the health crisis is on display until the end of March.
Dès demain, nos déplacements seront très fortement réduits.
Je me suis mise à pleurer, trembler. J'étais presque sûre que ça allait arriver.
The testimonies and images are surprisingly familiar. On the walls of this former storage hangar in Brussels, the effects of lockdown are exposed in broad daylight. This woman hadn't set foot in an exhibition for months.
I really like this photo of nature, these red colours. It's as if you were entering a party atmosphere with these colours.
Dozens of photographers are describing their lockdown here. From the 4th floor of his building in Pantin, Patrick Messina observed the same scene every day. At the end of the day, the young people of the neighborhood climbed over the barrier to the football field.
We could blame them for doing that, but at the same time, I was extremely touched to see them defy this ban, just to go and play football.
Laure Vasconis lived in lockdown with her son, who suffers from Down syndrome.
Here, for example, we didn't have any masks at the start of the pandemic, so there Leonardo spontaneously took out his mask, or at least the mask he had on hand, and then we ended with this image, which really dates from the last day, the 11th of May.
On these walls, pictures from all over Europe, like those of this Hungarian photographer who finds common points in all these photos.
The sense of enclosedness can be felt. You can tell that there was a lot of time to look inside instead of look outwards.
More than 400 artists have responded to the call for applications from this photography exhibition, which is focused on the theme of the interior world.
None of this work is an exercise in and of itself. These are things that were done and experienced out of necessity to respond to a situation at a given time.
The result? A huge photo album of the lockdown, and a way to document this historic period, which is still relevant to so many.
The iconic perfume Chanel No. 5 celebrates its 100th birthday this year. A timeless blend of jasmine, rose, sandalwood and vanilla, it's still popular a century on. Today, a bottle of the perfume is sold worldwide every 30 seconds. Ellen Gainsford takes a look at the scent's history.
She's a new face of a legendary scent. Marion Cotillard stars in Chanel No. 5's latest advert, celebrating 100 years of the world's most popular perfume.
For a perfume this mysterious, you can't imagine all the elements of a mystery.
In 1921, Gabrielle Chanel was already queen of the couture world. When she turned her talents to perfume, the fashion was for single-note, floral scents. With the help of master perfumer Ernest Beau, Chanel created something more complex. The result was a blend of 47 notes, including jasmine and aromatic aldehydes, organic compounds which she popularized.
It's impossible to define this smell, but as Chanel herself said, it's a perfume for women that smells like a woman. That was, at the time, really shocking language. Then it was believed a woman shouldn't smell like a woman. A woman must smell of flowers and virtue.
The bottle was unusually minimalist, inspired by laboratory equipment, while its stopper mirrors the geometric shape of Paris's Place Vendôme, and the unique name, a simple number.
Number 5.
Legend has it that it was the 5th attempt by Ernest Bourg that she kept as her perfume. And number 5 was her lucky number.
After the liberation of occupied Paris, American GIs queued up outside her boutiques, hoping to carry a piece of the French capital across the Atlantic. In 1952, Marilyn Monroe became the scent's most iconic ambassador, and her saucy reply to a journalist's question caused a scandal.
So I say Chanel number 5. Because it's the truth. And yet I don't want to say nude, but it's the truth.
Cementing the legend, in 1959, the bottle was put on display in New York's Museum of Modern Art, inspiring Andy Warhol and his pop-up prints. Another take on Gabrielle Chanel's timeless scent.
And we'll leave you with an exhibition showing rare and intimate photos of the artist Frida Kahlo. It's on at the Galerie de l'Instant in Paris until March. It's, of course, currently closed because of the COVID restrictions, but will hopefully open soon. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
They're known for their cuisine and saying hello with a kiss. They only work 35 hours per week, when they're not on strike, that is. How true are these clichés about France? Every week, Florence Villeminot tears apart stereotypes. Join us for insight into French culture and current events to understand what makes the French so unique.
French Connections, presented by Florence Villeminot on France 24 and France24.com.